Hello and welcome to my Innovation Story podcast, which gives you exclusive insights into the amazing journeys of innovators across the African continent. I'm Femi Awuni, and today we have an awesome guest, Toun Tunde-Anjous. And for those who may not know who she is, Toun is the founder of The People Practice, which is a people advisory firm that empowers companies through people, culture, and technology. Toun, it's an honor to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah.
And you spoke about the company really well. So
Okay, thank you. It's actually been, first of all, you're one of my favorite people in the ecosystem, I must say. And it's truly an honor to have you as a guest. So
thank you.
we're going to be delving a little bit into your personal story, how you got to where you are, some of the things that you've learned along the way. And, hopefully we're able to pick out some amazing things along the way.
Hopefully.
So we at My Innovation Story actually believe that a lot of who we are today is directly related to some of our earliest childhood experiences. So I'd like to roll the clock back a little bit to how things were as a child for you. So could you tell us a little bit about your childhood, how you grew up, the circumstances around your upbringing, just any context you can share?
Wow. I hope you guys are ready. Really hope you guys are ready. So I was born to two lecturers at the time. Both my parents, my father was a medical doctor. My mom was a pharmacist, but they were both in OAU, which at the time was University of Ife. So I was born to them. I was born in England. And at that point, my mom was doing her master's in University of Manchester. Then so I was born in Manchester. My dad was there as well. We moved back to Nigeria, but they still stayed on as lecturers. So I was a full-on lecturer's kid. Staff school, anyone who's a lecturer, who's been in university understands what staff school is. So I went to staff school for primary school. And then before we moved to Lagos. But that was my childhood. Childhood was just Ife, running around, not roaming the streets, if I'll put it that way. We're running around, very close circle. All our family friends at the time were either lecturers or people who were in academics as well. So that was how I grew up. Everyone was super intelligent. Everyone was smart. My dad was a whiz kid. My mom was a whiz kid, so they had gotten scholarships to go abroad. So that was how I was brought up. But I don't think that whiz kid thing actually kicked in on for me until way much later. I was such a slow, starter. But that was it. That was my childhood.
That's awesome. So it seems like you grew up around academia as a core. So when did you realize that you had a passion for people going through the years?
Interesting. I think, every time I reflect on that, I think it's always been there, subtly, but you wouldn't realize. I went through, finding myself. And I always say to people, you're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to change who you are and what you started with. I wanted to do so many things. I started off at 5, wanting to be a pharmacist like my mom.
Yeah.
And then I moved to petroleum engineering. They were the ones cashing in at the time. And then I thought, oh my goodness, physics, chemistry, really tough. I'm doing all this work only to get a C4 at the time. And if I get an A3, then I'm so excited. I thought, maybe I should look for something that I really enjoy on my own. And then I went into economics. And that was how I stayed in economics. And in economics, I thought, I'm going to go into investment banking or asset management because they were the ones who were the intelligent ones. So I've kind of always wanted to be seen as intelligent, but now when you think about it, of course, it's due to my parents being intelligent and not trying so hard to be intelligent. So I went into economics. I was in asset management, but for so long, since I was young, I watched a film, and it's so weird how films shape your direction. I watched a film called The Wedding Planner, and I wanted to go into events and projects management. So I left investment banking. I left asset management in, very early 2010 and went into events.
Really?
Yeah. So I did events for, I did corporate events. I did private events. I did NGO events. I did all sorts of events. And it was really going so well. And then I had there was some sort of adversity personally. And I thought perhaps I needed to be in something that wasn't so physical. And wasn't so manual, even though there was still a lot of strategic thinking, but it was still more manual. I had a sit down early 2013 or middle of 2013. And I said, I'm going to go and do one of those career things that you do and figure out who you are. I kind of had an idea. I've always known who I am at every point in time, even while I'm evolving. But I thought it was important to do that. So I did that. It was like 30 minutes, quite long. So usually when people come to me now and say they're looking for a career change, I always make them do one of those things. I did that. Everything that came up was education, counseling, human resources, people management, coaches, everything along that spectrum. And I felt like, this is, if there had to be a clearer sign, this is the clear sign. And so when I said, what do? I went to do my master's at the time. And then I started working in HR. And it's been 10 years of, going into people management. I've always liked training people. I've always liked teaching people, so in uni as well, the best way for me, I figured out to learn was to teach you what I know. Because then I'm sure I know it.
You understand it, yeah.
But at that point, I didn't know what I was doing. I just thought, and everyone would joke and say, maybe you're like a lecturer like your mom. Maybe you're a professor like your mom, and that was literally, but over time, it became very clear. I was fixated on getting people to learn things or learn what I knew. And so once I picked HR, it was very clear. It was very easy, very clear.
It's interesting. I think you raised a couple of very key points here. One is on self-discovery, because I've come to realize that, especially in the educational system today, there are certain types of intelligences that are biased towards, and some that tend to be more understated. But and I would imagine a lot of people who are like you, that grew up around academia, even if not their parents, but were surrounded by it, and don't have the type of intelligences that tend to be, lifted up in the educational system. They would have that internal tussle, right? And that's kind of what you went through until you settled to the point where, you kind of understood that, okay, thankfully through the test, that this is where my edge is. And maybe not within the physics or engineering space, but within the people space. And thankfully, you've come to realize that is where you tend to excel. Now, so having gone through the years now, you started people practice. How's that experience been for you, especially when thinking through the combination of people and technology? Because you seem to play in a very unique space where it's not just people, it's people and tech. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Whew. Yes, I think you've put it so clearly. I always say I'm at the intersection of people, culture, and technology. And I'll just say, for anyone who's looking to start anything, you don't realize the skills that you have and the skills that you need to pull out of or pull out from just to excel in what you do. And you haven't around the corner. Starting a company always sounds exciting and maybe a bit scary. Well, you get into it and you realize that, my goodness, you need to pull out all the stops. You're learning constantly. For anyone who's an independent contributor may struggle in running a business, because then there's so many sides to it that you have to be involved in at all points. But I think for me, in terms of intelligence, like you mentioned, I realized that I was smart. And I also realized that there was a power, there's such a power staying where you excel. I mean, it's great for me to say I want to be the next Formula One driver, the next best. But if I get into the car and I can't go past, 50 miles an hour because I am nervous, then I would struggle. I would be doing something that is completely out of my my depth, that is so unlike me. So, and I think if you ask yourself this question, on your best day, what are you doing? For me, on my best day, I am speaking. On my best day, I am training. On my best day, I'm coaching. I can speak. I always say I can speak for Africa. I can speak for 10 hours at a stretch. I may struggle with the standing, but just put me on a chair. I'm good to go. I'm not running out of content. I am pulling things. I love answering questions. So I think in just discovering, I'm hoping that I answered that question. In just discovering, the things that I enjoyed doing and just honing those skills, I think that was where my superpower was. I've obviously, each year I've learned something new or learned something that I've had to improve on. This year has been the toughest, but I'll allow us to kind of get to that before I jump into, yes.
No, but you You raise a really good point about staying within your depth, because I have this phrase that I like using where I say, what is your 9/10? So I think, for instance, I am at best an average singer, but and if I train, I could improve.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would ever be genuinely world class at singing. I have my other strengths that if I focused on and trained, I would get to 9/10 or even 10.
Yeah.
So I try to tell, what is your 9/10? What is that edge you have that you can hone and double down on so that you can excel? Because the alternative is being kind of lost in the crowd.
Yes.
If you're not focusing.
So many things. Yes.
So but I think kind of coming back to the people practice, because I think you've done a lot of amazing work.
Thank you.
I would love to know because you tend to focus on technology companies now.
Yes.
At least within the technology or innovation space.
Expanded though.
You have expanded. I would love to be a smarter person.
Yeah.
But I wanted to know, have you, especially more recently, have there been any experiences you've had within the technology space, considering a lot of the changes that have happened? Funding has gone up and come down. A lot of things have moved within the ecosystem. Have there been any things that you've realized or some challenging experiences you have had that almost stretched you beyond where you were comfortable?
Yes. Okay, so that clearly I'll go into some of those skills. 2020 was a great year, like COVID, post-COVID. And when I say great year, I mean in terms of funding, in terms of, capital that was being injected into the economy. So everyone was riding the wave, riding on a high. And you couldn't really see the quality of certain companies. Now that funding has reduced, now that funding has, it's affected the entire ecosystem, with a few of us who are on the supporting side also, getting the hit as well. But something that has changed for us, I think even our offerings have sort of, evolved. So where before we were handling everything across, we would always say everything across the people spectrum, right? From entry to exit. Now it's kind of evolved into where we've found ourselves doing a bit more investigations.
Okay.
A lot of investors are starting to ask questions. And so in terms of, in doing their due diligence, or even, things are coming up a lot where we have to be involved in. So we've been involved in lots of private investigations. We're also handling a bit of conflict resolutions. So even, between founders, between teammates, between leaders. That's literally what we're finding. And now that the world is going into a lot more, it's a bit more DI focused, so diversity, equity, inclusion. There's a lot of trainings around that, and culture. People are leading with culture, so there's a lot of culture transformation sessions, culture trainings as well. But one thing that I feel like, this year has stretched us with is resilience. To be honest, I have never had to be as resilient as I have this year. This year, I think a lot of people, globally, the world has seen, the world has taken a hit, right? And at different points, I stop and ask myself, Toun, who sent you? Who asked you? Literally, who asked you to go into this? It was sweet, first year, second year, I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing this. I'm securing the bag. And this year, like, my goodness, you literally have to find that strength from within. And something that my husband said to me. He said to me that the true test of a great founder is not in the great times, it's really in those tough times. And he said you have to learn to roll with the punches. Sometimes he's saying these things and I'm thinking, oh God, but it's the truth. As I'm hearing it, I know it's the truth. I know it's painful, but and he just says you just have to roll with the punches and see how early you can get yourself out of that, that period or that situation. And that's the first thing. And the second thing is that I've always felt quite icky about networking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. And it's weird because everyone thinks, oh my God, but Toun, you're such a people person. You're so excited all the time. I'm like, no, I'm excited with my people. That's how I felt. And this year, someone on my team, Ibuku, actually said early in the year that, she was worried if we wanted to do any fundraising or anything, considering that I'm not very keen on networking. And that really hit me. And I thought, my goodness, Tony, you have to be very intentional about maybe not networking, but building and maintaining the relationships that you have, letting people know that you're in their corner so that they can also realize that, yeah, we're also in Toun's corner as well. So those two things, I have had to stay resilient like never before. And I have had to network the life out of my life, literally, like never before. But it's also got me some, to meet some interesting people and do some interesting things as well.
I'm actually very happy to hear that you're at least flexing muscles that you typically didn't know you could.
So tough.
But there's a word you use, which is resilience.
Yes.
And I think it cuts across a lot of what's happening right now, where, in my honest opinion, there's a bit of it's like equilibrium is being gotten in the ecosystem where only the strong will survive. It's a little unfortunate because there are a lot of really good founders who are struggling.
Yes.
But it's one of those situations where, it was always going to happen after COVID-19 and a lot of what happened with, influx of cash into the ecosystem, so on and so forth. But I would like to talk more specifically about the founders, some of those who have to be resilient now and are having to make some of those hard decisions in their teams. So some of them include, reduction in salaries.
Yes.
Some of those include letting some people go.
Yes.
What are some things you can tell? Just tell us a little bit about, some best practices, some of the things that you've had to do in your experience, just things around that, please.
So interesting. I had kind of forgotten, I left that out earlier. That's one of the things that this year brought like never before, having to coach founders on how to let people go in the right way. We still had to do that this week as well. And it's very tough, especially if you've raised funds and you wonder how your people will take it because they're unsure. Where has this capital gone? How has this capital gone so quickly? What do you mean our runway is a lot shorter than it should be? Like, they struggle. But one of the things, I've looked at how it was done, it's hit everyone globally, Facebook, or Meta, as they're called. It's hit everyone literally across the world. Twitter, with Twitter's X now, it feels like everyone's changing their names, right? Meta, X, it's hit everyone. And one of the things that I admired, I kind of, just watched how they handled it, just to be sure that, we also handle it properly. And I'll just talk about the best practices. First thing is that it should come directly from the CEO or the founder. It should never be in the grapevine. It should be handled directly, and an explanation is owed to everyone at the same time. However, a few things should have happened in the back end before that happened. In the back end, you already know who's been let go. You already know whose salary, who's going to be hit by salary reductions. All of that needs to happen. Everything, all the paperwork needs to be set so that when the CEO is having that conversation, it's literally a case of everyone who's going to be impacted will know in the next 24 to 48 hours. Anything longer than that is just a nerve-wrecker, can literally just cause like severe breakdowns. So as long as that, and just let them know, you will know in 48 hours. If no one has reached you in 48 hours, then you're safe. Okay. Post 48 hours, then have another conversation around, this is where we are. This is a healthy equilibrium, and we can build from this. We're confident. You always have to keep reassuring them, because once that has happened, if a layoff has happened, whether it's 50%, 30%, 10%, people are uncomfortable. People are a bit, a bit shaken up. They're wondering, can this happen again? If this happens again, will it be me? So they start to, so you need to keep having conversations with the team. And at that level, it may not necessarily have to be the CEO, but senior leaders, the people director, or people managers, whoever it is, needs to keep having conversations and assuring and reassuring people that this, we're in a good place. And, our investors are pleased with this, and we have a few people who are committed. And if you're bootstrapping, then it should literally be a case of, we're good, our runway's fine, and, we are confident that we can turn we've steered the ship around, literally, yes. In a nutshell.
I like that. No, but thank you. I think a lot of those points are actually very solid, especially from the standpoint of it should come from the leadership.
Yes.
because I think what's happened a lot of times is some people shy away.
Yes, they do.
From
It's very
facing
uncomfortable.
it. It's very difficult. It's a hard conversation to have. But the importance of being very direct and kind of facing it head on, I think can't be overstated.
Yes.
So let me focus less on the founders and on some of the people who might have been let go.
Yes.
Are there any things you've had to do from, your experience? I would imagine you're coaching some of those people.
Yes.
Are there any things that you've had to tell them in the current climate, or just generally speaking on how to get back on their feet, or really just use it as an opportunity to rediscover what they really should be doing, right? Are there any things you can tell us about?
Yes, I feel like I'm about to start selling something, so I'll try less selling and more, speaking. So I think it's always a hard conversation, but I think everyone needs to get to that point where they stop and, like you said, either rediscover new things or just stay along on that path. I'm quite a positive person, and I always feel like when adversity comes, it means something great is on its way, and I just need to stay in that place of hope and keep doing what I've been doing. But I feel like that's always a great point, and it can be such a learning experience, and it can be part of your journey as well, part of your story as well. I think write about it. When I say write about it, it can be private journaling. It can be writing about it and letting everyone know on social media, on LinkedIn. And I'm looking now, I was impacted by this, and these are the things I'm looking for. Yeah. It's people underestimate how important LinkedIn or social media is in terms of job searching. Why? Most of the jobs that are out there, I'd say about, maybe not most, give or take about 30% of jobs that are out there are not out there. So what happens is someone puts up something and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is what I've been thinking of. And I know this person, I have an idea of this person's work, or I have an idea of the company that the person was with. And I know that's a strong company. So this person understands this. And if this person has done this in this company, for instance, and it's easier for me to get them to run with it in my company. So a conversation is had immediately or almost immediately. Also, putting yourself out there gets your mind ready, knowing that I'm ready to do this again. Fine, the interviewing landscape may have changed, but luckily this is where I'm selling. We have a book called Your Interview Cheat Code, and everything. It helps you secure, thrive in new roles as well. What skills should you be looking at? What should you be saying? How should you be addressing interview questions? How should you put your best foot forward as well? But also use that time to learn a bit about yourself. I'm so big on rediscovering myself. I'm so big on using, different things different talents, different gifts that I have, learn something new so that it also adds to your journey. And when you're interviewing, they meet a person who has been through something and has come out of it stronger, and not just someone whose life literally just stopped when it happened and they're just looking to pick it up again with their new role. So I think people are usually excited about that. So that's it.
That makes a lot of sense. I like the focus on, we're coming back to this point on discovery and self-discovery. We're taking a bit of a tangent here, but there's a question that we ask all our guests. And it's a very interesting question. It's basically, what has been the most pivotal moment in your innovation story so far?
You can see I'm wondering. So I want to say, adversity has a way of adversity has a way of just changing how you see things or how you approach things. But I'm afraid to see adversity so that there's no more adversity coming, but everyone goes through it. But I find that usually when there are tough times, that's when the best me emerges, because it's almost like I'm pushed, to a wall and I have no other choice, but to push forward. I think COVID was also a year that was tough because, for instance, we started the company in January 2020. And then COVID happened in Nigeria in terms of the lockdown, officially. And I thought, oh my goodness, who starts a company and 2 months later, everything stops. At that point, and I had a small team at the time, we're just 3, including me. But I thought, I have to make sure that these people feel like we're still a going concern. You know, we started thinking, you know, what do we do? How do we navigate this period? And that's when we came up. We thought, you know what, during this period, a lot of people are going to be let go. How do we help them get new jobs? How do we help them rediscover themselves? And that was how the book came out. We started writing articles. We started writing a lot of articles. We put articles out every week, and we called it Your Startup Drill. So it was really about, you're off work now, what do you do? Or you're working from home, what's the best way to work from home? How do we help team leads and founders, you know, navigate this new world of work where they have to think about connection and collaboration, but, you know, remotely?
Yeah.
How do we get a few of our clients who were not very technology, you know, driven to embrace that technology and trust the people that they have to do good work, even while they're not showing up physically? So there was a lot of work to do. It wasn't work that was paying at the time because you're writing, so it's a lot of content, but it was work, and work that made us feel like, oh my goodness, you know, you're doing things you're doing something that is important. And lastly, that was when we also realized that lots of people were going through so many things that had to do with, you know, were struggling in terms of mental health, in terms of, you know, work conflict, harassment. How do they handle it? And that was when we started coming out with the short courses that we do that have been, you know, things that have put us on BBC, for instance, or, you know, BBC Africa, you know, talking about sexual harassment at work. And it all came from adversity. I would kind of move forward and say I feel like this year is also another year that has, you know, really stretched us. And from this year, you know, we started looking at how do we digitize our services, and we came up with our products on culture. So it's literally everything we do at the People Practice, but digitized, you know, and that is still ongoing. But we're still in that like a pivotal, because we know that that's different. Technology changes the game. It accelerates the pace of learning, the pace of growth, and all of that. And we're super excited about it. But all of that has come from hard times or hard
I get what you mean.
paces.
Yeah, adversity. It's interesting because it seems there's a current theme of adversity and innovation. Adversity and innovation. So adversity comes up, you then think through ways that you can create value.
Exactly.
And I was going to ask a question, but you kind of touched on it, on whether the value you created during COVID-19, even though it wasn't pain per se, whether that led to any fruitful benefits for your company.
Yes, it did.
And it seemed like it did.
Yes.
BBC is one good advantage, I would imagine.
Exactly.
And I really hope that led to, you know, some more financial rewards.
Yes, it did. You know, at least, and it helps you. It feels like you have, you know, someone's like, yeah, Toun is doing something good, or the TVP is doing something good, or something. Yes.
I'm happy about that.
Yes.
So I want to then, there's something else that came up as I was kind of thinking through a lot of things that you do. There's a concept you introduced that I don't think many people know about. It's called, I believe, informational interviews.
Yes.
I'd love to use this opportunity for you to maybe tell us a little bit about it, because I don't think it's a concept that's known widely, or even if it's known, a lot of people haven't found the words to describe exactly what it is. Yeah. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about what it is? Yes. And how people can practically apply it to their careers?
Okay, so, informational interviews is literally just gathering information in a nutshell. And one of the ways, so when you're job searching, before you actually get to the real interviews, you have a period where you are doing the searches, you're on LinkedIn, you're on social media, looking for the right people to get the right information from. The best way to do it is to find people that you have mutual connections with. Okay. Because it's easy for me to reach you if we have a mutual friend, because then that person can, you know. And so where the world had like 6 degrees of separation, now is like 1 degree if you have a wide network of people. So it's really finding Femi and saying, Femi, oh, you guys are hiring, and what is the role about? And just talking me through that role, talking me through everything that has to do with the role. What are the person specifications? What sort of person do you think will thrive in that role? And this is what I've done, so that way you're coaching me without realizing that you're coaching me. But I'm also learning about the role a lot more. And then that way, when I go into interviews, I'm not just saying things that sound great, but I'm also talking like someone that has insight of the company. And then that way it feels like the person who is doing the interviewing feels like, oh my goodness, this person has gone the extra mile. This person seems to understand us a lot better. And it puts me ahead, of my...
It's interesting, of your peers.
Of my peers, yes.
So would you say for those looking to explore informational interviews, that the objective isn't to pitch, and it's not necessarily to actually directly ask about the role, but just learn what the requirements of the roles are?
That's it.
So learning what skills are needed, what kind of person will thrive in a role of this sort.
Exactly.
Because I would imagine that a direct benefit would be, you could get employed in the company, but also another company that has a similar role, because you already have context. So it's almost like getting context from one company and maybe applying
using it, yes.
Okay, so that's a very interesting one. I think it's something a lot of people don't know. And I'm very happy that we're able to provide that context.
Yes.
But thank you. This is very interesting. I'd like to ask on a more personal note. I found that you have quite a bit of a creative side. This is something I didn't know, by the way. Brand new information. And I've known Toun for some time. So could you tell us a little bit about how first of all, how did you discover the creative side you had?
Oh my goodness. So I mean, from the time I was 5, I was in show business, and home show business. So I would, we were quite a musical family. So we would watch, I think I watched Sound of Music at least 10,000 times. No jokes. Then you just had was it VCR? Yeah. So you just keep it, play, it stops, it gets to the end, you replay again. And so I would sing, I'd perform that, but, and I used to write music. My music was very self-centered, when I haven't gotten my way. And I have to sing about the fact that, that being...
It was a way of venting.
Yeah, it was my way of venting. And you have to hear it because I'm not talking to anyone, but I'm singing it out. So that was it, and I kind of played around with that. I was supposed to go to music school, but I thought it was boring because, someone had handpicked me and wanted to pay for it. But I thought it was really boring. I was early teens, like pre-teens, early teens. And now I kick myself, for not going. But it just, at the time, I thought, oh my goodness, everyone else is out doing other things and I'm here in that music school. But I enjoyed singing. I enjoyed writing music and writing poetry. So I kind of just played around, just doing that privately, and I'd write poems, I'd write music, but for myself, and sing. My voice note is filled with albums of songs, full songs with the bridges and everything, And then it wasn't until last year that I actually, first time I went into the studio was my younger sister's best friend, who's late now, from complications with COVID. He was a producer. I'd had a miscarriage and I was sad. And so he said, you know what, let's get Toun into the studio. She's always boasting about how just put her in the studio and a song will drop. And so my sister took me. So it was a way of getting me to heal. And we came up with, and the song was really nice. We just played around with it. But the first time I actually now went into the studio after that was last year. And then I released 2 songs. So they're on Apple Music. But I'm not, for me, it's just what I enjoy doing. And then I learned to play the piano during COVID.
Really?
Officially. So
you can play now?
Yeah, I can play now. But I can play like chords and play my song. So I write a song based off of, what I've learned. So so I play, so all my songs I play them. Yeah, so that's that. And then I enjoy learning. So learning was such a big deal for me. I write a lot, obviously, from the book as well, but I write my own private things, and I enjoy learning. So one of my achievements, which people may laugh at, is like on Duolingo, I'm learning French, and I'm on like day 1,200 and something.
That's consistency.
Don't ask me to speak anything right now, but but I enjoy learning, and I enjoy just flexing my muscles and stretching those muscles, because they help me. They take me away from everything else. Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, so like, I have the singing as an outlet,
yes,
which I think is in fact,
and dancing
as an outlet. It's amazing. Do you have any other ones?
Swimming, right? I love swimming. I just love water. Anything that has to do with water. Holidays with water. Everything.
You love the beach?
I love the beach. It's like it's like just thinking about the beach makes me happy.
Interesting.
So happy. So I love water. I love swimming. I love being underwater. Well, when I say under, just the pool, like pool for very short, periods. But I love water. So water helps me think. Water helps me. It is very serene. And then recently, I realized how much I love silence, and it's very weird for someone who speaks a lot. But I love silence. So I had to take silent periods in the day.
I'd like to come to that silence point because a lot of people, I like silence as well. But I found that a lot of people they're afraid of their own thoughts.
Yeah.
I've come to realize. So I'd like to ask, what are some of the things that you think through in those moments of silence or solitude?
Oof. My team will probably scream and be like, no, don't make her get excited about this. But just being silent, I get all my ideas. I mean, it helps that, there's a faith-based part to the silence. But I think in silence, my brain kind of quiets down. Everything stops. Everything is still. And for some odd reason, it's like those ideas were just waiting for silence. I write songs in silence. Literally, I hear songs. I know I was a bit worried about this because I know how that may come across. So I hear songs and I hear tunes. I hear beats. I hear thoughts. Like my thoughts are literally so loud at that point when I'm silent and and that's when a lot of it comes. So I always find that if I'm agitated, if I feel like I'm overwhelmed at work, silence works for me. Silence. And not before. It used to be music and music still, but if it's music, it has to be music that doesn't really have words. So classical music or instrumental, because I get very I start singing. But once it's just music that has no words, awesome. So instrumentals and classical music are awesome for me. Awesome. But silence is good.
Silence key.
Silence.
I like that a lot. I'm a big fan of instrumentals as well. Classical music, jazz specifically. Very big fan. But I see the value in silence. And I also think that a lot of, during moments of solitude, that there's a very quiet and still voice that kind of peers through that you don't really hear when you're in the hustle and bustle.
Thank you.
And usually that voice comes to a lot of really creative ideas. I'm a big fan and advocate actually for people spending time to introspect. So I'm happy to hear some of the things that you're able to share on this.
My dream would be to get a place that is silent in Lagos. And
like a silent room.
A silent
right?
room.
Yeah.
That would be my dream. To get a place where people can just sit on the floor, people can just sit in different places, they can write, they can think, and no one is speaking, no phones are going off. Everyone is super silent. I took a silent day off once in July. That was my first one. Just went into a hotel, blocked the door, closed it. Nothing.
No phones.
I didn't speak. No phones.
Devices.
I only had to do a check-in with my husband just so he knows that
you're alive.
She's alive.
Yeah.
Literally. But that was it. I was silent from that day till the next day at 11 a.m. It was awesome. It was scary.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Awesome. My things were dropping. Even down to at that point my kids. There was something that was going on. What do I do? Things were dropping. Try this, try that. And I'm wondering, it can't be from me, clearly. But I think that, there's a lot of value on high. There's a lot of value from just saying, Toun, you're not the smartest person to you. So how about you be quiet and just see what comes through, as long as they're great thoughts, obviously.
I really like that. Thank you for sharing. Honestly, I'd like to look ahead a little bit now.
Wow.
We've done a lot of reflecting.
Yes, we have.
And thinking through, just how you navigate the ecosystem today. So as we're coming to a close, I'd like to know just your general thoughts about what's next for Toun. What are some of the things that you see on the horizon?
I love it. So this is for Toun or for the people practice now?
For Toun. For both, but I'd like to know for Toun.
About a month ago or 2 months ago, I started thinking about going really hard into conflict management, and mental health, and kind of mixing it up. We already do both to an extent. So just wondering
why do you want to? Yeah.
I feel like when people work well together, really good work happens. When people are at their best at work, really good work happens. And I find that when you peel through why companies aren't doing well, it's because of something of that sort. It's either people don't understand what's expected of them, which is some conflict, because they don't, what I'm doing is not what my, team lead needs. So there's some sort of conflict. And I find that if you can hack conflict management within a company or hack mental health within a company, you will have the happiest, you will have the most productive, you will have the most connected teams ever. So I think, and I'm glad I'm actually saying that because I'd never kind of thought of it that way. But so I've been looking at how to go further in conflict management and mental health as a result of getting better, happier, more connected, more productive companies, people, societies in general. So I think that's it for Toun. For the people practice, it's literally that as well. Because we're digitizing a lot of our trainings. A lot of our trainings are focused on culture, on reducing toxicity at work, on improving culture, on improving teams, on improving leaders who drive this culture, on helping founders be better people and a bit more self-aware so that they lead healthier teams. Again, it's so tied with what I want to do personally. So it's just, how do we digitize that and get a lot more people to do it and have access to it and, just produce better societies as a whole. So that's literally where, what I'm looking at going into 2024, 2025. It'll be great to be at the front of everything that has to do with work, people and culture, especially in Africa.
Thank you very much, Toun.
Thank you.
Honestly, this is very insightful and I'm happy to hear. I like the context on conflict resolution and managing mental health as a whole because it's largely understated.
It is.
And, just sharing everything from your upbringing, how you started, how you went about your self-discovery, going through the different rounds, the different career paths that you could have chosen, but you didn't, or you tried and you pivoted, coming into some of the difficulties that you faced on a personal and career perspective. And then looking ahead, some of the things that you're trying to do for the future. It's been honestly a fantastic time. I thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Hopefully we get to do this again.
Hopefully, I'm ready. Femi, thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed speaking. I've used you as my sounding board, so this has been therapy for me. Just going back and also just, thinking about next steps as well.
Honestly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone listening. See you on the next episode of My Innovation Story. Take care.